Burmese by Ear, or Essential Myanmar. This is tape 1 of a short course for beginners in Burmese, which is also known as Myanmar. It's written by John O'Carroll, a teacher of Burmese retired from SOAS in the University of London, and it's presented by the author and a series of Burmese speakers. There is a booklet to go with the tapes, but the tapes are meant to be used by themselves, so you don't need to look at the book at all. The main point of the book is for reference. It gives you a way of reviewing points you learn in the tapes. Without further ado, we plunge straight into Lesson 1 of Unit 1 in Part 1. This lesson introduces your first words and a way of asking questions. We're going to say a question in English, and then the Burmese equivalent, and then there's a gap on the tape to give you time to repeat the Burmese after the speaker. Are you ready? It's hot, isn't it?
Bude no.
Bude means it's hot, and the no on the end is the bit that means isn't it. Try that one again.
Bude no.
And now here are some more questions for you to repeat. It's cold, isn't it?
Ede no.
It's good, isn't it?
Kaunde no.
It's all right, isn't it?
Yare no.
That last question is one you can use where we might say, you don't mind, do you? If you were about to pick up something in a shop to look at, or if you wanted to sit down next to someone in a bus. Now we have a how do you say exercise. You hear a sentence in English, and then there's a gap for you to say the Burmese equivalent, and then you hear the Burmese speaker saying the sentence again to confirm or correct what you've just said. How do you say, it's hot, isn't it?
Bude no.
It's cold, isn't it?
Ede no.
It's good, isn't it?
Kaunde no.
It's all right, isn't it?
Yare no.
Pronunciation points for Lesson 1.1. Many of the sounds of Burmese are the same as in English, but others aren't. So in each of these first few lessons, we pick out one or two of the sounds of Burmese that are either totally different or subtly different, and we give you a bit of practice in producing them. You'll find a written description of all the sounds of Burmese set out in the appendix on pronunciation in the booklet. The first sound we're going to look at is the P sound at the beginning of Bude. You probably noticed that it isn't quite like an English P, which would make the word sound like Pude, and it's not like an English B, which would make it sound like Bude. It's a Burmese P, which is somewhere in between those two English sounds, Bude. We call it a plain P. If you have trouble making the plain P sound right, try imitating someone who speaks English with a strong foreign accent. If you can say, I keep my poodle in Pune, then you've got a perfect plain P, and you can use it in Bude. It's important to get the plain P sound right, because if you don't, you may confuse it with the other P sound that's used in Burmese. The other P sound sounds more like an English P, and we call it an aspirated P. Here are two different words to copy after the tape. The first of them begins with a plain P, and the second with an aspirated P. Are you ready?
Pande. Pande.
The first word means to spurt, and the other means to catch. And there are lots of other pairs like that. So if you can't hear the difference between the two P's, and you can't make them sound different when you're talking, you run a high risk of getting in a muddle. Say those two words again, after the speaker.
Pande. Pande.
And now say, to be hot, with a good plain P.
Bude.
You don't need to memorize pande and pande. We're just using them as an example for practicing pronunciation. Pronunciation point 2 in Lesson 1.1. We repeat the lesson numbers from time to time in this rather officious way, so as to make it easier for you to find where you are when you're looking for a particular place on the tape. Burmese also uses a plain K and an aspirated K. The plain one is the K you were saying in kaunde, to be good. It's not kaunde with an aspirated K like English, and it's not gaunde with an English G. It's kaunde with a plain K. Again, it may help to try imitating an exaggerated foreign accent. He caught a cow in King's Cross. And again, it's important to differentiate the plain K from the aspirated K, because if you say Combi with a plain K, you're saying it's all gone, and if you say Combi with an aspirated K, you're saying it has started jumping. Try saying those two words after the tape.
Combi, combi.
Again, that's an example to practice, but not to memorize. Now you say to be good with a clear plain K.
Kaunde.
Pronunciation point 3 in lesson 1.1 is something called tone. High pitch and low pitch are used to make differences between words in Burmese. So make sure you say bude and not bude. You need to make it go low low and not high low, because bude with the low low tune means to be hot, and bude with the high low tune means to be stuck together. Say those two after the tape now.
Bude, bude.
The other three words you met in this lesson are all high-low words. Ere, kaunde, and yare. Say them again after the tape and make sure they all go high-low and not low-low or low-high or anything else.
Ere, kaunde, yare.
Lesson 1.1, Numbers. Each of the first 16 lessons is followed by a section on numbers and counting. This is the first. Here are the numbers 1 to 4. Listen.
Di, ni, to, le.
And now you say those numbers after the speaker, one by one. 1,
Di,
2,
ni,
3,
to,
4.
le.
And now take them two at a time. 1, 2,
Di, ni,
3, 4.
tong, le.
And now all 4 together.
Di, ni, tong, le.
And now, how do you say 1, 2,
Di, ni,
and 3, 4?
tong, le.
Pronunciation points for lesson 1.1, numbers. 3 points in this section. The first is the T sound you met in the word for one. Di. It's just like the plain K and the plain P. It's not an English T or an English D, but the foreign sounding plain T that you hear in a phrase like, please take your time. And as with the K and the P, there's an aspirated T in Burmese as well. Here's a pair of words to copy. They mean to ask for something and to thump. Plain T first, aspirated second.
Town de, town de.
And now say the Burmese for one with a good plain T.
Di,
Pronunciation point 2 in lesson 1.1, numbers, is the sound at the beginning of nit. It's a sound we don't have in English. It's like an English N, but with the first half of the sound whispered. So you start with and then change to n, and when you put the two halves together, you get hm. It's called a breathed N. Here are a couple of words to repeat after the tape. The first has a normal N, and the second has a breathed N.
Na, na.
And now try these two.
Ni, ni.
And the second of those is your word for two. Pronunciation point 3 in 1.1, numbers, is the sound at the end of nit and at the end of dit. It's the sound you hear in some kinds of English when people say, what is it? It's called a glottal stop. If you can say the it in what is it convincingly, and you're not saying it or ik with a T or K at the end, then you've got the sound you need for the end of dit and nit. Say this after the tape.
တစ်နှစ်
And another word that ends in a glottal stop.
6
That's the Burmese for 6. And it rhymes closely with the English word shout. But remember, it's got to be shout and not shout. Lesson 1.2. Here's an answer to questions like Budeno. Listen to this.
ဥတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပူပါတယ်
They're saying, it's hot, isn't it? And the answer is, yes, it is hot. Hoke means yes, and bude, as you know, means to be hot. When you're giving an answer to someone, you usually say not just bude, but bude with a bar in the middle. Bubade. Putting in the bar shows that you're being polite. Here are some sentences to repeat. Take care with the plain K in hoke. It's hot, isn't it?
ဥတယ်နော်
Yes, it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပူပါတယ်
It's good, isn't it?
ကောင်းတယ်နော်
Yes, it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကောင်းပါတယ်
Time for practice. You'll hear a question in English and then in Burmese, and then there's a gap for you to repeat the question and to give the answer yes. The tape will echo your answer to confirm it. Are you ready? It's hot, isn't it?
ပူတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပူပါတယ်
It's cold, isn't it?
အေးတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အေးပါတယ်
It's good, isn't it?
ကောင်းတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကောင်းပါတယ်
It's all right, isn't it?
ရတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ရပါတယ်
Now a memory test. How do you say, it's hot, isn't it?
ပူတယ်နော်
It's cold, isn't it?
အေးတယ်နော်
It's good, isn't it?
ကောင်းတယ်နော်
It's all right, isn't it?
ရတယ်နော်
Pronunciation point for lesson 1.2. Burmese has two vowels, e and e. They're both used in the word e-de. It's cold. And because we don't have any sounds in English that are quite like e and e, the temptation is to make them both the same and just say something like a-day. But you need to be able to differentiate e and e because there are many pairs of words where the difference is crucial. If you make sere sound like sere, people won't know whether you're talking about washing or cursing. The e in the first syllable of ede almost rhymes with the English word play, but not quite. And the e in the second syllable of ede is like the e in the word end. Here's a pair of words to copy.
လေးတယ်လဲတယ်
That's to be heavy and to fall over. But we don't expect you to memorize them. Here's another pair.
ဝေးတယ်ဝဲတယ်
They mean to share out and to buy. Now say to be cold, making sure you get a good Burmese e in the first syllable.
အေးတယ်
And now say 2, 3, 4 with a nice e in the 4.
နှစ်3 4
Lesson 1.2, numbers. Here are the numbers 4 to 7. Listen.
4 5 6 9
And now you say them one by one after the tape. 4,
4
5,
5
6,
6
and 7.
9
Now we'll take them two at a time. 4, 5,
လေးငါ
6, 7.
6ခုနှစ်
And now all four together. 4, 5, 6, 7.
လေးငါ6ခုနှစ်
Now a memory test. How do you say 4, 5?
4 5
And 6, 7?
6 9
Now you repeat 1 to 4.
တစ်နှစ်3 4
And now repeat 4 to 7.
လေးငါ6ခုနှစ်
And now repeat 1 to 7 all together.
1 2 3 4 5 6 9
Another memory test. How do you say 1, 2, 3, 4?
1 2 3 4
And how do you say 4, 5, 6, 7?
4 5 6 9
Pronunciation point for 1.2 numbers. The point for this lesson is the sound at the beginning of nga, the word for 5. We do have this sound in English. We use it in words like sing and long. But in English we never use it at the beginning of a word. And for some reason, until we've had a bit of practice, we find it hard to put it at the beginning. If you find that your nga isn't coming out right, try saying singer a few times. First normally, singer, singer, and then with a little pause after sing. Singer, singer, and then with a longer pause. Singer, singer, and so on, until you can separate the two syllables completely. Sing, nga, sing, nga. And in that nga, you have the sound you need for nga. Here's a speaker to copy.
nga
Lesson 1.3. Some new words. The first is one you'll need if you're asking if a taxi is free, or if a chair in a cafe is free. To be free is ade. Say this after the tape. It is free, isn't it?
အားတယ်နော်
Yes, it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အားပါတယ်
The second new word is to be pretty, hlade, a word you might want to use about something in a shop. Try this. It's pretty, isn't it?
လှတယ်နော်
Yes, it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့လှပါတယ်
When you're eating Burmese food, people may want to comment on how hot tasting something is. You could say, it's hot, isn't it?
စက်တယ်နော်
Yes, it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဆက်ပါတယ်
And finally, people may ask you if you like something. To like is jaite. You like it, don't you?
ကြိုက်တယ်နော်
Yes, I do.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကြိုက်ပါတယ်
Notice that you don't need words for you and I. You'll find a note about that in the topical vocabulary on you and I in the booklet. Here's some practice to help you memorize the new words for 1.3. Answer yes to the questions. After you've given your answer, you'll hear the tape echo it for confirmation, and then you'll hear the English version of your answer.
ကြိုက်တယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကြိုက်ပါတယ်
Yes, I do like it.
ဆက်တယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့စက်ပါတယ်
Yes, it is hot tasting.
လှတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့လှပါတယ်
Yes, it is pretty.
အားတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အားပါတယ်
Yes, it is free.
ပူတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ပူပါတယ်
Yes, it is hot.
အေးတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အေးပါတယ်
Yes, it is cold.
ကောင်းတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကောင်းပါတယ်
Yes, it is good.
ရတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ရပါတယ်
Yes, it's okay. And a memory test. How do you say, it's hot, isn't it?
ပူတယ်နော်
It's okay, isn't it?
ရတယ်နော်
It's good, isn't it?
ကောင်းတယ်နော်
It's cold, isn't it?
အေးတယ်နော်
It's hot to taste, isn't it?
ဆက်တယ်နော်
It's free, isn't it?
အားတယ်နော်
It's pretty, isn't it?
လှတယ်နော်
You do like it, don't you?
ကြိုက်တယ်နော်
Pronunciation points for lesson 1.3. Both the pronunciation points for this lesson come up in the word to be pretty, hlade. You already know the breathed N in the word for to, ne. Well, the word for pretty begins with a breathed L, which works in the same way. It begins with a whispered L, and turns into a normal L, and together they make the breathed L, hl. Here's a pair of words to copy. The first has a normal L, and the second a breathed L, and they mean to burn and to store away, respectively.
လောင်တယ်လှောင်တယ်
The second pronunciation point in lesson 1.3 is the tone of hlade. It's definitely a high-low word, hlade, but the high syllable is shorter and sharper than the high tones in most of the words you've met so far. It's not hlade, but hlade. We call it the creaky tone because you have to tighten your throat to say it, and that gives it a slightly creaky quality. Hla. The other word you met that has a creaky tone is yade, to be all right. If you don't make the ya in yade short and creaky, it'll sound like a normal high tone, yade, which would make it mean I've got an itch. So that's another distinction you need to make sure of. Here's a speaker to copy, saying first the creaky high tone word that means it's all right, and then the plain high tone word that means I've got an itch.
Yare. Yare.
And now try the word that raised these 2 points, the word to be pretty.
Hlade.
The other new words in this lesson are all high-low words. The first syllable of are is a plain high tone, and the first syllables of chaite and sate end in a glottal stop, which also makes them high. Lesson 1.3, Numbers. Here are the numbers 7 to 10. Listen.
Kune shit go tse.
And now you repeat them after the speaker, one at a time. 7,
Kune
8,
shit
9,
go
and 10.
tse.
Now say them 2 at a time, and make sure you give kune, shit, good strong glottal stops, and ko, a good plain K. 7, 8,
ခုနှစ်ရှစ်
9, 10.
ကို30
And now all 4 together, 7, 8, 9, 10.
ခုနှစ်ရှစ်ကို30
Next, a memory test. How do you say 7, 8,
Kune shit
9, 10,
go tse.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Ti ni tong le.
and 4, 5, 6, 7.
Le nga chao kune.
Lastly, count from 1 to 10 after the tape.
1 2 3 4 5 6 ခုနှစ်ရှစ်ကို30
Pronunciation points for lesson 1.3 numbers. Make sure you say the O in ko with a good round Burmese O and not an English O. Here's the tape to copy.
ကို
You have to keep the Burmese O distinct from or, like the sound in bude no. This one isn't too difficult for speakers of British English. It's like the or in awful. But speakers of American English need to be careful to say or like a Brit and not ah like an American. Here's a pair of words to copy.
Ore. Ore.
As usual, they mean quite different things. The first is to be old, and the second is to shout. Lesson 1.4. You know how to answer a question with yes, and now here's the no answer. Listen to this.
ပူတယ်နော်
Mapu babu.
They're saying, it's hot, isn't it? No, it isn't. You notice that there isn't a word that corresponds exactly to no. The m in mapu babu means not. So all you're actually saying is just not hot. Now you repeat these exchanges after the tape. It's good, isn't it?
Kaung de no.
No, it isn't.
မကောင်းပါဘူး
This is all right, isn't it?
ရတယ်နော်
No, it isn't.
Maya babu.
In the next exercise, you ask the questions following the prompt. You'll hear the confirmation as usual, and then you'll hear the no answer, which you repeat. Are you ready? How do you say, it's hot, isn't it?
ပူတယ်နော်
မပူပါဘူး
It's free, isn't it?
အားတယ်နော်
မအားပါဘူး
You like it, don't you?
ကြိုက်တယ်နော်
မကြိုက်ပါဘူး
It's cold, isn't it?
အေးတယ်နော်
မအေးပါဘူး
Here's another exercise. Listen to the question, give a no answer, and then give the English for what you've just said. Like this.
ပူတယ်နော်
မပူပါဘူး
It isn't hot. Off you go.
ပူတယ်နော်
မပူပါဘူး
It isn't hot.
အားတယ်နော်
မအားပါဘူး
It isn't free.
ကြိုက်တယ်နော်
မကြိုက်ပါဘူး
I don't like it.
အေးတယ်နော်
မအေးပါဘူး
It isn't cold.
ကောင်းတယ်နော်
မကောင်းပါဘူး
It isn't good.
ရတယ်နော်
မရပါဘူး
It isn't okay.
စက်တယ်နော်
မဆက်ပါဘူး
It isn't hot tasting.
လှတယ်နော်
မလှပါဘူး
It isn't pretty. Pronunciation point for lesson 1.4. The Burmese sounds j and ch are a plain and aspirate pair, just like the plain and aspirate k's and t's and p's you practiced earlier. And like the k's and t's and p's, if you say a word with the wrong one by mistake, you risk being badly misunderstood. So take care. The plain j is not like the aspirated sound we write ch in the English word cha, and it's not like the j in English ja. It's halfway between the two. Ja. We Romanize it with a C instead of a CH. The aspirated ch is more like the sound we use in cha and church and so on. Here's a pair of words to say after the tape. Plain ch first and the aspirated version second.
ကြက်တယ်ချက်တယ်
The first word means to learn by heart and the second means to cook. Now say to like with a good plain j.
ကြိုက်တယ်
And now the word for 6 with an aspirated ch.
6
Lesson 1.4 Numbers. Now you know the numbers 1 to 9, you can talk about phone numbers. First say the word for phone number.
တယ်လီဖုန်းနံပါတ်
Not a hard one to remember. And now the Burmese for what is it?
ဘယ်လောက်လဲ
Balaule really means how much is it, but that's the way you ask for numbers in Burmese. Now say the whole question, what's your phone number?
တယ်လီဖုန်းနံပါတ်ဘယ်လောက်လဲ
And here's an answer to repeat.
44663ပါ
44663. When you give the number, you add a ba at the end to make it sound polite. Lili chow chow thom ba. Here's some practice in lesson 1.4 numbers. How do you say, what's your phone number?
တယ်လီဖုန်းနံပါတ်ဘယ်လောက်လဲ
It's 12123.
12123ပါ
It's 44559.
44559ပါ
It's 67678.
6968ပါ
People often use a shortened version of kunet in phone numbers. Instead of kunet, they just say kon. Try this after the tape.
60668ပါ
The difference isn't critical, so you can use the full form or the shortened form as you please. When you're talking about phone numbers, sooner or later you'll want to say 0. In Burmese it's tho nya. Say that after the tape with a good strong creaky tone on the nya.
3ည
And here it is in a phone number for you to copy.
1 3ည 4 3ည 5
And now say these numbers, first in Burmese after the tape, and then in English.
84 3984
84084.
92 9139
92910.
539 563
50563. And lastly, how do you say, what's your phone number?
တယ်လီဖုန်းနံပါတ်ဘယ်လောက်လဲ
It's 88009.
88 3939ပါ
It's 60703.
6 3ည 9 3ည 3ပါ
Pronunciation points for lesson 1.4 numbers. The first is the ny sound in tho nya. It's quite like the ny in the English word mignon, but it's actually closer to the ny in words like seigneur in French or signore in Italian. Here's the tape to copy.
3ည
The second pronunciation point is the sound at the end of the word for 3, thong. It's easy to slip into the habit of making it rhyme with stone, but in fact in Burmese you don't let your tongue touch the roof of your mouth. You don't say thone, you say thong. It's like the nasalized vowels you hear in French. Try and say these words so that they sound exactly like the tape.
3
And here's another.
တယ်လီဖုန်း
The open nasal sound isn't so obvious when there's some other word following it. You hear it clearly when you say kaung, but it gets swamped when you say kaungbade. And you hear it in thong, but not so well in thonya, and so on. Lesson 1.5. More new words. 2 in this lesson. First, to understand. Nalere. Say this after the tape, and make sure you get a high na and a low le. Nalere. You understand, don't you?
နားလေတယ်နော်
Yes, I do.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့နားလည်ပါတယ်
Here's the next word. To be expensive. Ze jide. Try this and make sure you get a good Burmese e in ze. It's expensive, isn't it?
ဈေးကြီးတယ်နော်
Yes, it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
Practice. How would you answer yes to this question?
နားလည်တယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့နားလေပါတယ်
Yes, I do understand.
ဈေးကြီးတယ်နော်
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
Yes, it is expensive. Now listen to the no answer. There's something slightly different about these new verbs.
နားလေတယ်နော်
နားမလည်ပါဘူး
No, I don't understand.
ဈေးကြီးတယ်နော်
ဈေးမကြီးပါဘူး
No, it's not expensive. As you heard, with these two-word verbs, you don't put the m at the beginning of the whole verb, you put it before the second word. Na male babu and ze machi babu. Have a go at those no answers yourself after the tape.
နားမလည်ပါဘူး
I don't understand.
ဈေးမကြီးပါဘူး
It's not expensive. Time for how do you say in lesson 1.5. It's good, isn't it?
ကောင်းတယ်နော်
It's hot, isn't it?
ပူတယ်နော်
It's okay, isn't it?
ရတယ်နော်
You do understand, don't you?
နားလေတယ်နော်
It is free.
အားပါတယ်
It's pretty.
လှပါတယ်
It's expensive.
ဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
I like it.
ကြိုက်ပါတယ်
It isn't hot to taste.
မဆက်ပါဘူး
It isn't cold.
မအေးပါဘူး
I don't understand.
နားမလဲပါဘူး
It's not expensive.
ဈေးမကြီးပါဘူး
Pronunciation points for lesson 1.5. You don't meet any new sounds in this section, but here's a reminder. In na le de, remember to make a clear high-low-low tune. And a good open e in le. Here's the tape to copy.
နားလဲတယ်
And in ze ji de, remember to make a clear high-low tune. And a nice close e in ze, and a plain Burmese j in ji. Copy this.
ဈေးကြီးတယ်
1.5 numbers. In this lesson, we go on to 10, 20, 30, and so on. But to start with, how do you say 1, 2, 3, 4?
1 2 3
4, 5, 6, 7,
4 5 6 9
and 7, 8, 9, 10.
9 8 9 10
Now here's the Burmese for 10, 20, 30, and so on, up to 100. Say these numbers after the tape, one by one, and take care to get a good Burmese e in se.
30 20 30 40 50 60 70 80 90 100
The word for 10 is se, and when you want to say 60, you say 6 tens, chao se, and for 80, you say 8 tens, shi se, and so on. There are a couple of small irregularities that make the pronunciation of the rest of the numbers in the 10 set not quite so predictable. You'll find a note about them in the booklet, but for most people, it's probably easier to learn the new numbers as fixed compound words than to try and learn the rules and apply them while you're speaking. So for now, just have another go at repeating the tens after the tape. We'll take them two at a time. 10, 20,
10 20
30, 40,
30 40
50, 60,
50 60
70, 80,
90 80
90, 100.
90 100
If you can learn those numbers by heart, you'll find you can handle the irregularities without really being aware of them. Now some practice on the tens numbers. How do you say 60?
60
And what's 80?
80
In the next few numbers, instead of se, you say ze with a z. What's 30?
30
And 40?
40
50?
50
90?
90
And in the last three numbers, the first syllable gets shortened. What's 10?
10
20?
20
And 70?
90
Finally, what's 100?
100
Pronunciation points for lesson 1.5 numbers. Burmese has two S sounds that you need to keep distinct. Again, they're a plain and aspirate pair. The plain S is a very tight hiss, s, and in the other S, the aspirate S, you can hear an H sound after the S, s. Try these two words after the tape.
စမ်းနဲ့ ဆန်းတယ်
As usual, they have nothing to do with each other. The first means to try out, and the second means to be strange. You met the plain S in the word sate, to be hot-tasting. Here's the tape to copy, and make sure you keep the S tight, and don't let any H sound come between it and the ate.
ဆက်တယ်
And here's the aspirated S in the word for 10, to say. Say it after the tape, and try and get an audible H after the S.
တစ်ဆယ်
Lesson 1.6. One way of saying very in Burmese is thay. Copy these sentences after the tape. It's very good.
တိတ်ကောင်းပါတယ်
It's very hot.
တိတ်ပူပါတယ်
Notice that the thay is high and the bubare is all low, so thay stands out above the rest. Here's that sentence to copy again.
တိတ်ပူပါတယ်
Now how would you say, it's very cold?
တိတ်အေးပါတယ်
It's very pretty.
တိတ်လှပါတယ်
It's very expensive.
တိတ်ဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
And now repeat this after the tape. It's not very hot.
တိတ်မပူပါဘူး
That means it is hot, but not very hot. Here's another one. It's not very good.
တိတ်မကောင်းပါဘူး
Now how would you say, it's not very cold?
တိတ်မအေးပါဘူး
It's not very hot to taste.
တိတ်မဆက်ပါဘူး
It's not very pretty.
တိတ်မလှပါဘူး
I don't like it very much.
တိတ်မကြိုက်ပါဘူး
I don't understand very much.
တိတ်နားမလဲပါဘူး
Here's the other new word for lesson 1.6. When you want to say a little or a bit, you can use nene. Say these sentences after the tape. It's a bit hot to taste.
နည်းနည်းဆက်ပါတယ်
I understand a little.
နည်းနည်းနားလဲပါတယ်
And now how would you say, it's very expensive?
တိတ်ဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
It's very pretty.
တိတ်လှပါတယ်
I like it very much.
တိတ်ကြိုက်ပါတယ်
It's a bit hot.
နည်းနည်းပူပါတယ်
It's a bit cold.
နည်းနည်းအေးပါတယ်
It's not very hot to taste.
တိတ်မဆက်ပါဘူး
It's not very good.
တိတ်မကောင်းပါဘူး
And I don't understand a lot.
တိတ်နားမလဲပါဘူး
Pronunciation points for 1.6. You've learnt several words now that begin with the Burmese th sound. Thong, thay, thonya. As you may have noticed, it can sometimes sound like an English th. Thong, thay, and thonya. But more often it sounds as if it had a T in front of it, a bit like the th in Henry VIII. Even so, you have to keep it separate from the normal Burmese T. Here's a pair of words to copy. The first begins with a Burmese T and means to be stupid, and the second begins with a Burmese th and means to use.
တုံးတယ်သုံးတယ်
For beginners, it's better to aim at the English th sound, th, and let it change gradually and unconsciously to the other version, th. If you start by trying to reproduce the Burmese th, you'll risk making it sound too much like a Burmese t. Here's the tape now, saying the words you know, for you to copy.
သုံးတိတ်သုံးည
1.6 Numbers. In this lesson, we learn the numbers between the tens, 11, 12, 13, and so on. The rule is that you simply string the two numbers together. So for 63, for example, you first say 60, chause, and then 3, th. thou. So you get chause thou, 63. Here are a few new numbers for you to say and recognize. Repeat the number you hear on the tape and then say what it is in English.
64
64
64.
82
82
82.
91
91
91.
35
35
35.
69
69
67. The only irregularity, which you may have noticed, is that in compound numbers the low tone on se is often changed to a creaky tone. So instead of nase dit, you'll often hear naset dit. If you do notice it, don't be worried. You can say the numbers with the change to the creaky tone or without it. When you come to the numbers from 11 to 19, which go deset dit, deset nit, deset dong, and so on, you'll find that people often leave off the first syllable. So instead of deset dit, you hear just set dit. And instead of deset nit, you hear set nit, and so on. Here are some numbers for you to say in Burmese. How do you say 89?
89
61.
61
23.
23
76.
96
59.
59
32.
32
In the next couple of numbers, remember to leave out the t at the beginning. 14.
14
17.
18
1.7. Here are 3 more words you're likely to need soon after you get to Burma. First, a word for to be cheap. Ze chore. It means the price is sweet. Try this after the tape and take care with the vowels. Try and avoid going around saying ze cho ba de.
ဈေးချိုပါတယ်
Next, a word for to be well. Ni kaunde. It means your health is good. Say this after the tape.
နေကောင်းတယ်နော်
That's a very common form of greeting, in fact, like saying, how are you? And lastly, the word asempire, which means to be acceptable or to work out all right. People use it when they want to ask if you're all right sitting where you are, maybe when you're looking a bit cramped in a bus, or if it's all right staying in the student hostel. They'll say, asempire no? It is working out all right, isn't it? Here's the yes answer to repeat after the tape. Notice that the S in asing is an aspirated one.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အဆင်ပြေပါတယ်
All 3 of the new words in this lesson are words that put m in the middle. Say these after the tape.
ဈေးမချိုပါဘူး
It's not cheap.
နေမကောင်းပါဘူး
I'm not well.
အဆင်မပြေပါဘူး
It's not working out well. Now some practice for lesson 1.7. How would you say, you're well, aren't you?
နေကောင်းတယ်နော်
How would you say, this is all right, isn't it?
ရတယ်နော်
It is cheap.
ဈေးချိုပါတယ်
It's expensive.
ဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
I don't understand.
နားမလဲပါဘူး
It's not free.
မအားပါဘူး
It's a bit hot to taste.
နည်းနည်းဆက်ပါတယ်
It's a bit cold.
နည်းနည်းအေးပါတယ်
It's a bit hot.
နည်းနည်းပူပါတယ်
It's very good.
သိတ်ကောင်းပါတယ်
It's very pretty.
တိတ်လှပါတယ်
I don't like it much.
တိတ်မကြိုက်ပါဘူး
It's not working out very well.
တိတ်အဆင်မပြေပါဘူး
Pronunciation point for 1.7. Just one small point. The PY sound in asim piede. Make sure you say pie as one syllable, so you're not saying piye bade, which sounds very foreign. Here's the tape to copy.
အဆင်ပြေပါတယ်
1.7 numbers. The word for 100 is ya, so 300 is thong ya, and so on. Here are some round hundreds to say after the tape, and after each one, you say how much it is in English. Make sure you get the tones right. All of them go high-low.
300
300,
400
400,
500
500,
600
600,
800
800,
900
900. The hundreds are a bit more regular than the tens, but dit, nit, and kunet get shortened in the hundreds in the same way as they do for the tens. Later on, we'll need to refer to this change again, and when we do, we're going to call it weakening. We say that dit gets weakened to da, and so on. Here are the weakened numbers for you to copy. 100.
100
You might have expected dit ya, but the dit is weakened and it comes out as da ya. Say that one again.
100
It's the same with 200 and 700. Say these after the tape.
200 900
Now here are some hundreds for you to say in Burmese. How would you say 300,
300
400,
400
800,
800
900?
900
And here are the weakened ones. 100,
100
200,
200
700.
900
1.8. In this lesson, we come to another kind of question. Listen to this.
စက်တလား
မဆက်ပါဘူး
Is it hot to taste? No, it's not. Here's another example.
နားလေသလား
ဟုတ်ကဲ့နားလည်ပါတယ်
Do you understand? Yes, I do. Notice again that in Burmese you can usually do without words for you and for I. Now say those questions yourself after the tape. Do you understand?
နားလည်သလား
Is it hot to taste?
ဆက်သလား
What's the difference between this question and the questions you've been asking up to now? The answer is that the new question, Satala, is it hot to taste, just asks if it's hot or not. Whereas your old question, Satte no, asks someone to agree with you that it is hot. It's like saying, it is hot, isn't it? Try converting some statements into questions and give the English version of the question after the Burmese, like this.
စက်ပါတယ်
ဆက်သလား
Is it hot to taste? Now you have a go.
စက်ပါတယ်
ဆက်သလား
Is it hot to taste?
အားပါတယ်
အားသလား
Is it free?
ကောင်းပါတယ်
ကောင်းသလား
Is it good?
ဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
ဈေးကြီးသလား
Is it expensive? When you say adala and other questions, the sound before la is the same as the English sound in the words this and that. Adala. Here are some questions to answer for lesson 1.8. Follow the prompt.
အေးသလား
Say yes it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အေးပါတယ်
အဆင်ပြေသလား
Say yes it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အဆင်ပြေပါတယ်
ဈေးချိုသလား
Say, yes, it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဈေးချိုပါတယ်အားသလား
Say, it isn't.
မအားပါဘူး
ဈေးကြီးသလား
Say, it isn't.
ဈေးမကြီးပါဘူးစက်သလား
Say, yes, it is a bit.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့နည်းနည်းဆက်ပါတယ်
နားလေသလား
Say, yes, you do a bit.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့နည်းနည်းနားလဲပါတယ်ကောင်းသလား
Say, yes, it is very.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့သိတ်ကောင်းပါတယ်
လှသလား
Say, yes, it is very.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့သိတ်လှပါတယ်ပူသလား
Say, not very.
သိပ်မပူပါဘူး
ကြိုက်သလား
Say, not much.
သိပ်မကြိုက်ပါဘူး
This is a good place to point out that the greeting you learnt earlier, ne kaundeno, has three variant forms, all of them using the suffix la. Say these after the tape.
နေကောင်းသလား
နေကောင်းလား
နေကောင်းရဲ့လား
All three of them mean the same thing. Are you well? And the answer to all three is the same. Ne kaunbade. Yes, I am. So how do you answer when someone asks you,
နေကောင်းလား
နေကောင်းပါတယ်
1.8 numbers? We move on now to three-figure numbers. Again, the rule is quite straightforward. Say these numbers after the tape. 198,
198
265,
265
and 743.
943
You may notice in some speakers that in these compound numbers, the low tone on ya is sometimes changed to a creaky tone, ya, like the change we noticed from se to se. So instead of de ya na se, 120, you'll often hear people say de ya na se. Now it's your turn to say some numbers. How would you say 987?
989
654,
654
321,
321
550,
550
1.9, this and that, words you would want if you were pointing to something in a shop or a restaurant. Say them after the tape. This is,
ဒါ
and that is.
အဲ့ဒါ
Make sure you produce a clear high-low tune for that. Here it is again.
အဲ့ဒါ
You'll find some variations on da and eda in the booklet, but for the tape we'll just stick with these two. Here are some sentences for you to copy. Is this hot to taste?
ဒါစက်သလား
Is this cold?
ဒါအေးသလား
Is that expensive?
အဲ့ဒါဈေးကြီးသလား
Do you like that one?
အဲ့ဒါကြိုက်သလား
Notice that in the last sentence, era and chaitala come the opposite way round from English. In English we say, do you like that? But in Burmese you say, that you like. The rule is that in Burmese, all verbs come at the end of the sentence. Here's some practice for lesson 1.9. How would you say, is that good?
အဲ့ဒါကောင်းသလား
Yes, it is.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ကောင်းပါတယ်
Is that cold?
အဲ့ဒါအေးသလား
Not very.
သိပ်မအေးပါဘူး
Is this one hot to taste?
ဒါစက်သလား
Yes, it is a little.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့နည်းနည်းဆက်ပါတယ်
It's hot, isn't it?
ပူတယ်နော်
Yes, very.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့တိတ်ပူပါတယ်
You like that one, don't you?
အဲ့ဒါကြိုက်တယ်နော်
Yes, very much.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့တိတ်ကြိုက်ပါတယ်
Is this one expensive?
ဒါဈေးကြီးသလား
Yes, a little.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့နည်းနည်းဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
1.9 numbers. The word town means 1,000, and you count thousands in the same way as you counted tens and hundreds. Try these numbers after the tape. 6,000,
6000
8,000.
8000
There are a couple of irregularities to cope with when you're counting in thousands, but they're the same irregularities as you met with the tens and hundreds, so they shouldn't be too much of a problem. You learnt before that with the tens and hundreds, the numbers dit, nit, and quinit all get weakened. Instead of dit se, you say de se, and so on. And instead of nit ya, you say ne ya, and so on. And it's the same with the thousands. Try these after the tape. 1,000,
1000
2,000,
2000
7,000.
9000
You also learnt before that after thon, le, nga, and ko, you don't say se, you say ze. We call that change voicing. You voice the S sound to a Z sound. You'll find a note about it in the booklet. The same rule operates with town. After the same numbers, thon, le, nga, and ko, instead of town with a T sound, you voice it and say down with a D sound. Not thon town, but thon down, and so on. Say these after the tape. 3,000,
3000
4,000,
4000
5,000,
9000
9,000.
9000
Now here are some thousands for you to say in Burmese. First the regular ones. How do you say 8,000
8000
and 6,000?
6000
Then the thousands with the first syllable weakened. 1,000,
1000
2,000,
2000
7,000.
9000
And lastly, the thousands with the second syllable voiced. 3,000,
3000
4,000,
4000
5,000,
5000
and 9,000.
9000
1.10. 3 new words that we're going to need for the next lesson. First, to want something. Lojinde. Try this after the tape. Something you might say if you were pointing to something in a shop.
အဲ့ဒါလိုချင်ပါတယ်
It means, I want that. It's very important to get your highs and lows right in this word. You'll see why if you look in the booklet. Have another go.
အဲ့ဒါလိုချင်ပါတယ်
New word number 2 is mare, meaning to order something in a restaurant or a cafe. Say it after the tape.
အဲ့ဒါမမှားပါဘူး
I didn't order that. And lastly, new word number 3 is one you'll need if you're a vegetarian. To have meat in it, or to contain meat, is atha pare. Atha is meat, and pare is to contain. So say this after the tape, taking care to get a good Burmese P in pare.
ဒါအသားပါသလား
Does that one have meat in it? That sentence is another example of the Burmese rule that verbs go to the end of the sentence. Instead of, does that one have meat in it, in Burmese you say, that meat contains, da atha padala. Now some practice for lesson 1.10. How would you say, I want that one?
အဲ့ဒါလိုချင်ပါတယ်
I want that one very much.
အဲ့ဒါတိတ်လိုချင်ပါတယ်
I don't much want that one.
အဲ့ဒါတိတ်မလိုချင်ပါဘူး
Do you want that one?
အဲ့ဒါလိုချင်သလား
You want that one, don't you?
အဲ့ဒါလိုချင်တယ်နော်
Has this one got meat in?
ဒါအသားပါသလား
This one doesn't have meat in.
ဒါအသားမပါပါဘူး
This one's got meat in, hasn't it?
ဒါအသားပါတယ်နော်
Did you order that one?
အဲ့ဒါမှားသလား
I didn't order that one.
အဲ့ဒါမမှားပါဘူး
You ordered that one, didn't you?
အဲ့ဒါမှားတယ်နော်
Yes, I ordered that one.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အဲ့ဒါမှားပါတယ်
Pronunciation points for 1.10. There's one new sound that comes up here for the first time, and that's the beginning of the word mare, to order. It's a breathed M, and it works the same way as the breathed L in flare, to be pretty, and the breathed N in ne, meaning to. You start with a whispered M, and you finish with a normal M, and when you put the two together, you get the breathed M. Here's a pair of words to copy. First with a normal M, and then with a breathed M.
မှတ်တယ်မှတ်တယ်
The first means to be steep, and the second means to make a mark. Now say the word to order.
မှားတယ်
That's the last of the pronunciation points on the tape. 1.10 numbers. We move on now to 4-figure numbers. They follow the same pattern as the 3-figure numbers. Say these numbers after the tape and then give the English for them.
6500
6,500.
8300
8,300.
9400
7,400.
2100
2,100. There are a couple of irregularities to notice in the thousands. One is that the low tone on town is often changed to a creaky tone. You say not town, but town, like the change we noticed from se to se and from ya to ya. So for 2,100, instead of na town da ya, you'll often hear na town da ya, but it's not a vital variation. The other point to notice is that the first syllable in da town is so short that it sometimes gets left off altogether. So instead of da town na ya, you may hear just town na ya, and so on. But again, you don't need to learn to say it that way yourself. Now it's your turn to say some numbers. How would you say 8,866?
8866
9,955.
9955
1,234.
1234
6,648.
6648
1,285.
1285
9,337.
9338
1.11. The Burmese for which one is beha. Here's the tape with some questions for you to repeat. Which one has meat in it?
ဘယ်ဟာအသားပါတယ်လဲ
Which one is hot to taste?
ဘယ်ဟာစက်တယ်လဲ
Which one is cool?
ဘယ်ဟာအေးတယ်လဲ
That's a question you might use in a cafe if you wanted to choose the coolest drink. It's a way of asking which ones are the cool ones, or which ones are coolest. As you see, beha sometimes corresponds to which one in English, and sometimes to which ones. You'll notice that when a question has beha in it, you end it with thale instead of the question ending you're used to, which is thala. You say, era budala, is that one hot? But with beha, you say, beha budale, which one is the hot one? You'll find a bit more about this in the booklet. Practice. You'll hear a question asking which one. You give an answer saying that one, and after your Burmese answer, give the English version of it, like this.
Beha lo jindale.
Era lo jimbade.
I want that one. Are you ready?
Beha lo jindale.
Era lo jimbade.
I want that one.
Beha jaitale.
Era jaipade.
I like that one.
Beha madale.
Era mabade.
I ordered that one.
Beha adale.
Era abare.
That one is free.
Beha ata padale.
Era ata pabare.
That one has meat in it. Now here are some questions and answers for practice for lesson 1.11. How do you say, which one do you want?
Beha lo jindale.
I'd like to have that one.
Era lo jimbade.
Which one do you like?
Beha jaitale.
I like that one.
Era jaipade.
Which one has meat in it?
Beha ata padale.
That one has meat in it.
Era ata pabade.
Which ones are the cool ones?
Beha edale.
Those are the cool ones.
Era ebade.
Which ones are the hot ones?
Beha pudale.
Those are the hot ones.
Era pubade.
Which ones are the ones that are hot to taste?
Beha satale.
Those are the ones that are hot to taste.
Era sapare.
Which are the good ones?
Beha kaundale.
Those are the good ones.
Era kaumare.
Which are the expensive ones?
Beha zejidale.
Those are the expensive ones.
Era zeji bare.
1.11 Numbers. Here's someone in a shop asking how much something is.
Da belaule.
Belaule means how much. You may remember the word from the lesson where you asked about phone numbers. Telephone number, belaule. Say the shop question now, after the tape.
Da belaule.
The unit of Burmese currency is the kyat. In Roman spelling it's written Kyat, but in Burmese it's pronounced kyat. How much are these prices? Repeat the Burmese first, and then say the price aloud in English.
45 jet.
45 kyats.
33 ကျပ်
33 kyats.
62 jet.
62 kyats.
22ကျပ်
21 kyats.
189 jet.
187 kyats. I expect you noticed that tit, nit and kunet all weaken in the usual way when you're counting in kyat. Your turn in 111 numbers. How would you say 35 kyat?
35ကျပ်
24 jat,
24ချက်
and 152 jat.
152ကျပ်
There's one irregularity you need to be warned about. When you have a price in a round number of jat, 20 jat or 300 jat or whatever, any figure ending in a zero, then you leave out the word jat. So, although for 29 jat you say naseko jat, when you come to 30 jat, you just say tonze. There are one or two variants on this pattern, but on the whole, this is the commonest one. So here are some round numbers for you to say in Burmese. How do you say 100 jat,
100
240 jat,
240
3,500 jat?
3500
If you feel like taking a break at this point to run through all the new words and structures you've learnt so far, the review for Unit 1 will help you to do just that. It's in the review section, which is on the second side of tape 4. Unit 2. Now that you can handle straightforward statements and questions, we move on to ways of saying you're going to do something, you want to do something, and asking people, please, to do something. To start with, here are a couple of new words. 2.1. When you go into restaurants and cafes, you'll find an enormous range of traditional Burmese foods and drinks, and a number of imported items as well. As you would expect, the foreign drinks and dishes usually keep their foreign names, though they may be pronounced with a strong Burmese accent. So you'll find Betsy, Sebe Ap, Holit, Koko, Sandwich, Hamburger, and so on. And those are the names we're going to use in this lesson to avoid loading you with too many new words to learn at once. The two new words you'll need before long are to eat, which is sare, and to drink, which is taute. Try this after the tape.
ဟမ်ဘာဂါစားတယ်နော်
You do eat hamburgers, don't you?
ဟမ်ဘာဂါစားသလား
Did you eat a hamburger?
ဟမ်ဘာဂါမစားပါဘူး
I don't eat hamburgers. Or the same sentence could mean I didn't eat a hamburger. In Burmese, you can use sabade and masababu, either for things that people do on a regular basis, like eating or not eating hamburgers, or for things that people did on a particular occasion. So, hamburger sadana can mean either do you eat hamburgers or did you eat a hamburger. The other new verb in 2.1 is taute, to drink. Here are some sentences to repeat.
ပက်ဆီတောက်ပါတယ်
I drink Pepsi, or I drank a Pepsi.
ပက်စီတောက်သလား
Did you drink a Pepsi?
ပက်ဆီမတောက်ပါဘူး
I didn't drink a Pepsi, or I don't drink it. One more word for this lesson. You've learnt the word beha, meaning which one. There's another word rather like it, which means what, and it's ba. Say these sentences after the speakers.
ဘာတောက်တယ်လဲ
What did you drink?
ဘာစားသလဲ
What did you eat?
ဘာမှားတယ်လဲ
What did you order? Notice that questions with ba end in the le, ba sadale, what did you eat? Just like questions with beha, beha sadale, which one did you eat? Practice for lesson 2.1. First, some sentences about eating, sare. How would you say, what did you eat?
ဘာစားသလဲ
Did you eat a sandwich?
ဆင်းဝစ်စားသလား
You ate a hot dog, didn't you?
hot dog စားတယ်နော်
I didn't eat a hot dog.
ဟော့တော့မစားပါဘူး
I ate a hamburger.
ဟမ်ဘာဂါစားပါတယ်
And now some sentences about drinking. Taute. How would you say, what did you drink?
ဘာတောက်တယ်လဲ
Did you drink a Coke?
ကုတ်တောက်သလား
You drank a 7-Up, didn't you?
7up တောက်တယ်နော်
I didn't drink a Vimto.
ဗင်တိုမတောက်ပါဘူး
I drank a beer.
ဘီယာတောက်ပါတယ်
2.1 Numbers. Some shops and parks and tourist sites require foreigners to pay in dollars. The Burmese for dollar is dollar, and dollars are counted in much the same way as jats. Try these phrases after the tape.
ဒါဘယ်လောက်လဲ
$45ပါ
Here are some other dollar figures. Repeat the price after the tape and then say how much it is in English.
$4
$4.
$15
$15.
$68
$68.
$29
$29.
$183
$173. There is one way in which counting in dollars is not exactly the same as counting in jats. Say these prices after the tape and listen for the odd one out.
$59
$60
$61
And so on. As you heard, the number normally comes before the word dollar. But when you've got a round number, that's any number ending in a 0, like the number 60 in this example, then the number comes after the word dollar. Not chause dollar, but dollar chause. Here are some round numbers for practice in 2.1 Numbers. How do you say $80?
$80
$900.
$900
$3,000.
$3000
This is a rule that applies to anything you count. Dollars, baht, pounds, miles, minutes, cupfuls, platefuls, people, animals, everything. We call it the round number rule, and it has one exception. Mathematically, 10 is a round number, and it ought logically to come after the noun it's counting, like all the other round numbers. But linguistically, the number 10 breaks the rule and comes before the noun. So you don't say $1 to se, which you would expect, but instead you say $6. Here's some practice. How do you say $8?
$8
$25.
$25
$40.
$40
$17.
$19
$100.
$100
And lastly, take care with this one, $10.
$10
Lesson 2.2. So far you've been talking about what you ate and drank and what you like and need, but you haven't yet had to say anything about what you're going to do. Listen to this. I drank a Pepsi.
Pepsi တောက်ပါတယ်
I'm going to drink a Pepsi.
Pepsi တောက်မယ်
So to change I drank to I'm going to drink, you change thau pade into thau me. In the same way you can change sa bade into sa me, ma bade into ma me, and so on. Repeat these sentences after the tape and say what they mean in English.
Sandwich စားမယ်
I'm going to eat a sandwich.
Coffee တောက်မယ်
I'm going to drink coffee. How would you say, I'm going to eat a biscuit?
Biscuit စားမယ်
I'm going to drink Fanta.
Fanta တောက်မယ်
I'm going to order a hamburger.
Hamburger မှာမယ်
When you ask questions about what people are going to do, the me weakens to m. Try these questions after the tape. Are you going to order pudding?
ပူတင်းမှာမလား
What are you going to eat?
ဘာစားမလဲ
Remember that a what question ends in le. For lesson 2.2, how would you say, what are you going to drink?
ဘာတောက်မလဲ
I'm going to drink a sparkling.
စပါကလင်တောက်မယ်
What are you going to order?
ဘာမှာမလဲ
I'm going to order a coffee.
ကော်ဖီမှာမယ်
Are you going to eat a sandwich?
ဆန်ဒ်ဝစ်စားမလား
I'm going to eat a biscuit.
ဘစ်ကစ်စားမယ်
Are you going to order a hamburger?
ဟမ်ဘာဂါမှာမလား
I'm going to order a hot dog.
hot dog မှာမယ်
2.2 numbers. When you're ordering drinks in a cafe, you need to be able to say how many you want for yourself and for your friends. In English, you might say 4 bottles of Pepsi. In Burmese, you use a different word order. You say Pepsi 4 bottles. Pepsi le long. Say that after the tape.
ပက်ဆီလေးလုံး
How would you say 4 bottles of sparkling?
စပါကလင်လေးလုံး
6 bottles of beer.
ဘီယာ6လုံး
You can use long for counting cans too. So bia chao long would do for 6 cans of beer as well. You may remember that when you're counting in tens and hundreds, the numbers dit, nit and kunit got weakened, and the same happens when you're counting in cans or bottles or any other unit. Here are some of those weakened numbers for you to repeat after the tape.
ဖန်တာတစ်လုံး
1 bottle of Fanta,
ဘီယာ2လုံး
2 bottles of beer,
ဗင်တို9လုံး
7 bottles of Vimto. How would you say 5 bottles of Coke,
ကုတ်5လုံး
8 bottles of sparkling,
စပါကလင်10လုံး
2 bottles of Pepsi,
ပက်ဆီ2လုံး
1 can of beer.
ဘီယာတစ်လုံး
Lesson 2.3. 3 new words that we need at this stage. Say them after the tape. Where,
ဘယ်မှာ
here,
ဒီမှာ
and there.
အဲ့ဒီမှာ
All 3 end in the suffix ma, which means in or on or at, and it's pronounced with the breathed M that you practiced earlier. Now you say the new words. What's the Burmese for where,
ဘယ်မှာ
and here,
ဒီမှာ
and there?
အဲ့ဒီမှာ
Now copy this.
ဘယ်မှာအေးတယ်လဲ
Where is it cool?
ဒီမှာအေးပါတယ်
It's cool here. You notice that dima comes before the verb in Burmese, the other way round from English. Supposing you are choosing somewhere cool to sit on a hot day, how would you say, it's hot here?
ဒီမှာပူပါတယ်
Or, it's hot here, isn't it?
ဒီမှာပူတယ်နော်
Yes, it's very hot.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့တိတ်ပူပါတယ်
Where is it cool?
ဘယ်မှာအေးတယ်လဲ
It's cool over there.
အဲ့ဒီမှာအေးပါတယ်
Now imagine you're looking for somewhere cheap to do some shopping. How would you say, is it expensive here?
ဒီမှာဈေးကြီးသလား
Yes, it is a bit expensive.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့နည်းနည်းဈေးကြီးပါတယ်
Where is it cheap?
ဘယ်မှာဈေးချိုတယ်လဲ
It's cheap over there.
အဲ့ဒီမှာဈေးချိုပါတယ်
And next, imagine you're walking around looking at restaurants. How would you say, where are you going to eat?
ဘယ်မှာစားမလဲ
I'm going to eat here.
ဒီမှာစားမယ်
Where are you going to drink beer?
ဘီယာဘယ်မှာတောက်မလဲ
We're going to drink over there.
အဲ့ဒီမှာတောက်မယ်
2.3 Numbers. When you're in a cafe and asking for something that comes in cups or glasses, you'll need the word kwe, which means just that, a cup or a glass. Say this after the tape. A cup of coffee.
ကော်ဖီတစ်ခွက်
2 cups of Milo.
မိုင်လိုနှစ်ခွက်
6 glasses of Vimto.
ဗင်တို6ခွက်
So far, so good. As you may have guessed, there is a small irregularity to cope with, but it is one you've met before. You already know that the word for 10, se, voices to ze, and the word for 1,000, town, voices to down. The word kwe also gets voiced after thong, le, nga, and ko. Listen. 1 cup of coffee,
ကော်ဖီတစ်ခွက်
3 cups of coffee.
ကော်ဖီ3ခွက်
You don't say thong kwe, you say thong gwe. Try this after the tape.
ကော်ဖီ3ခွက်
3 cups of coffee,
lime juice 4ခွက်
4 glasses of lime juice. Now, how would you say, first some examples without voicing, 6 cups of Horlicks,
Horlicks 6ခွက်
2 glasses of sparkling,
sparkling 2ခွက်
1 cup of coffee.
ကော်ဖီတစ်ခွက်
And now some examples with voicing. So instead of kwe, you're going to say gwe. 3 cups of cocoa,
ကိုကို3ခွက်
5 cups of Milo,
မိုင်လို5ခွက်
4 glasses of lime juice.
lime juice 4ခွက်
Lesson 2.4. More new words. There are 3 in this lesson. To take a photograph. Dapong, yaite. The photograph is dapong and yaite is to take or to print. Try that once after the tape.
ဓာတ်ပုံရိုက်တယ်
How would you say, I took a photograph here?
ဒီမှာဓာတ်ပုံရိုက်ပါတယ်
I'm going to take a photograph here.
ဒီမှာဓာတ်ပုံရိုက်မယ်
Are you going to take a photograph here?
ဒီမှာဓာတ်ပုံရိုက်မလား
Where are you going to take a photograph?
ဘယ်မှာဓာတ်ပုံရိုက်မလဲ
I didn't take a photograph.
ဓာတ်ပုံမရိုက်ပါဘူး
Word 2 is tainde, to sit. Try it after the tape.
ထိုင်တယ်
How would you say, I'm going to sit here?
ဒီမှာထိုင်မယ်
Where are you going to sit?
ဘယ်မှာထိုင်မလဲ
Are you going to sit there?
အဲ့ဒီမှာထိုင်မလား
We're going to sit here, aren't we?
ဒီမှာထိုင်မယ်နော်
Word 3, the last word is to stop. Yate. It's the word you need if you're in a taxi. Say the word after the tape.
ရက်တယ်
How would you say, are you going to stop here?
ဒီမှာရပ်မလား
No, I'm not.
မရက်ပါဘူး
Where are you going to stop?
ဘယ်မှာရပ်မလဲ
I'm going to stop there.
အဲ့ဒီမှာရက်မယ်
We're going to